All right, here we are. Dory Martin, thank you so much for coming on. You have so much knowledge, and we're going to talk about how not to gain weight in menopause and how to manage that weight gain so that we don't gain it, especially over the holidays, which was why we're so excited to come on today, is to help you not gain weight in menopause so you can feel your best, feel amazing. And you've got two keto experts here in front of you now, and we're going to get into the chat. We're going to try to cover a lot over the next hour, and we love chatting about this. This is our jam. This is what we do. This is our lifestyle, and sometimes we forget what we need to educate you on and help you understand. And so we're just going to kind of see where this goes and see what comes up between the two of us, because that's our strong point here. The more you get two people who are in this knowledge, who understand this lifestyle as functional diagnostic nutrition and nutrition as power and information to your body in menopause, then you really get the juice. You really get the power tuned in so you can reclaim your health the second half of your life so that you can be aging adventurously and be as beautiful as you want to be. So this is where the badass comes in, and we get to feel amazing. And you know what? We have control. So Dory, what do you do to help maintain your health in menopause to keep your weight off? Let's go there and start there first, and then I'll segue off of that.
Okay, absolutely. So why I went through menopause, I guess we went through perimenopause in my late 40s and didn't know what it was, and it just got worse and worse and worse. And like what you were saying about like, why do we gain weight? I was doing all the things, health coach, we're health coaches, right? And so I was working with an influencer. She was doing, she was cycling different programs, and we were doing sugar detoxes. We were doing elimination diets. I was on target. I was doing all the things, and I was gaining weight. Or I ended up with 7 pounds, and, everybody, beauty at every size. But you know what your normal set point is. You know what your body feels like when it's healthy. And so this is what we're talking about, right? So when things are going sideways and there's these 7 pounds, and some people might say that's not a big deal, but if it doesn't belong there and it's in the visceral area, which is the one that's not very healthy, right? Some people have curves all around, and, they have their metabolic scores and everything are okay. But in my case, it was all the visceral fat, the waste. And you can fill in later, because this is also your wheelhouse, what that means, but that's not a good thing. So I was doing all the things. I was eating right, but I wasn't able to lose that weight. And I felt like such an imposter. I was dialing in the nutrition piece and, exercising and all the things. And then I realized, wow, I am going to menopause. I found out, actually, this is probably going to be another talk, but I had removed mercury from my dental fillings, and there was some kind of toxic issue. So that's like one of the things to answer that question you asked in your, like, the title, like, why do we gain weight? Well, toxins could be one of them. And that was mine. Basically, I got exposed to mercury and toxins, and that feeds into candida. So there was an overgrowth. But also I was going into menopause. And so menopause, so many things happen. I hear, and I'm sure you heard the same thing, Lori, that when you're going through menopause, it's kind of like a report card. Your hormones have been carrying everything, and then when they ghost you, and nature's kind of mean, it just kind of like peters out and goes crazy and it's gone. Then you end up feeling the up and down roller coaster ride. And then with the estrogen doing what it does, I mean, it's connected to serotonin. And when you lose your estrogen, you end up with like mood and more insulin sensitivity. You end up like trying to self-medicate with carbs. And so I was having a hard time staying on point with my nutrition. And even when I was, it wasn't working. And so then I realized, women actually, when your adrenals are, in your 20s, they're probably responsible for 25% of your sex hormones. Then in your, 30s, 40s, when you're going towards menopause, it's about 50%. At menopause, your adrenals are basically taking over the ship. And so if you're stressed out and you're doing all the things that you were doing before to stay healthy and stay lean, well, your chemistry shifted. And one of the things, and the reason why we like nutrition so much is because, and I wasn't doing a ketogenic diet, by the way, I was just doing elimination, and I detoxed some sugar. So, and I swapped out carbs, right? Like sweet potato and those lower carb foods. And so it wasn't enough. And when I started working on my adrenals and healing my adrenals and eating more fat, because really, I mean, we talk about seed cycling, other things to feed your estrogen, progesterone, but your adrenals actually use fat to make your sex hormones, right? 90%, remember? So that's what we really want to focus on. So I started doing more of that, but also a big piece of what I was doing was working on calming down, because as you and I mentioned, there's this great book called Rushing Woman Syndrome. And it's about how we are people who are just constantly doing, go, go, go. People, and you know, it's that stupid Anjali commercial. I want to bring home the bacon, fry it up a pan, and never let you forget. We do it all. We're supposed to do it all, have it all. And, you know, the women before us fought so hard to get all these freedoms. And now it's like, well, we have to take advantage of it all and be busy and live up to it and all. And also our kids have, I mean, we've had kids older in this generation, and our parents are living longer. And so a lot of us are sandwiched in, and I have, you know, been dealing with that. So there's a lot of stress, a lot of like feeling of lack of self-care and all these other things. And so sort of a roundabout way to answer your question, but I realized that there's more to it than just doing the same things you were doing before actually can be not helpful. Like hunkering down, more is better. Let's just like beat up our adrenals and, you know, do heavy lifting and CrossFit and all these other things. There's a season for that potentially. But when you're going through menopause and in burnout and, you know, like having so many things on your plate, the thing that helped me most was just to calm my nervous system down. Your adrenals, as you know, also are they pump out your stress hormones. It won't do both. It won't help you create hormones and, you know, help you deal with stress. And so a lot of what I did was cultivate time to meditate. That's why I'm an EFT practitioner. Nothing like there was a research done by Dawson Church where he looked at cortisol, and it reduced your cortisol by 27% in sessions. And it is one of the few things that could do something like that so quickly, except now we're learning more about polyvagal, vagus nerve, and breath work and those kinds of things. And so I've delved into all those things. So it's a combination of helping heal the adrenals so that the organ that you actually have now that's creating your sex hormones are back online and optimizing. And then you also have your nutrition, and you're just doing all the things to support calm, like signal to your body, hey, everything's okay. And then also give it the nutrients, because as you and I talked about in the last video, we starved ourselves. And so of course that's fight, flight, but we also cut out fat. And so we're at a deficit. And for bone health, brain health, heart health, we need the right kinds of fat. So bringing all those things on board has been, it changed everything. And it makes it easy to be able to maintain a healthy lifestyle. And the stress and everything, your body's able to do things when you feed it fat to feed into helping with the cortisol and quiet it down. So, and yeah, I know you have like similar things with nutrition, and I know that you were on the podcast and we were talking about what you do and your tagline, like aging adventurously and just getting out there and being, well, tell me what you do to help yourself with weight loss.
So definitely the stress factor comes in. So I completely agree with the adrenals. If our adrenals are burned out when we get to menopause, then we're going to have more trouble with that insulin resistance that's setting in. And we're just, like you said, we're going to crave the carbs. So we actually need more fat to nourish our body, to balance our stress levels, and to actually eat more to lose the weight. Because when we eat more fat, we're eating less of the high carbohydrates that are causing our stress load on the body, and we're getting more nourished. So that's why I really pulled in the protein, really helped me, and bringing in the fat. So I still do more of a higher fat protein diet overall, because that's where I feel good. But like you were saying, the adrenals and the stress, the last 20 pounds of weight loss that I lost was because I got outside, because I got sunlight, because I did grounding barefoot, and because I spent as much time as possible in natural light. Makes the biggest difference to reducing the stress load on the body, so we can get our adrenals to reset, our homeostasis to reset, because we really lose weight when we're in a homeostatic state where there is a parasympathetic state. Because if we're fight and flight all the time with those cortisol levels elevated, we're just going to store fat. We're not going to burn it. And so that's why we always want to look at not over exercising, because that raises your cortisol levels. A little bit is good. Some strength training's better, and maybe 20 to 30 minutes of some light cardio, but not extreme. Actually, HIIT is better. And HIIT is just like high intensity activity, which might be just a minute or 2 minutes or 3 minutes, and then you're done. And how fun is that to be done with the 3 minutes of HIIT exercise instead of 60 minutes of jogging? And how much easier it is to get that into your lifestyle. So sometimes I'll be on a 1-mile walk and I'll just start jogging or running really fast. And I'm like, okay, cool, I did it. I got my sprint in and I'm good for the day. And if we just do that a couple times a day, not only does that help you reduce your stress load, but you're actually getting the visceral fat reduction of your body fat. So you're burning through the visceral fat. And that's what we want. And so one of the reasons that I started losing weight more rapidly, because before then it was a little slower, was because of stress management, getting outside and grounding and getting that sunlight and managing the stress. Because like you said, when we hit 50, we're more insulin resistant. The estrogen's just not there. It's going to store itself in our body fat. And we need to learn to adapt to our modern condition of being without hormones. And then if you don't manage the adrenals, right, as you were saying, it's just not going to work. We're just going to be feeding our body with carbs because they're like, what the heck's going on? And why do I feel like this? It's just like crazy. So yeah, that's gaining the weight's been I haven't gained much weight at all over the last, I've been losing weight steadily over the last 9 years. And it's an accumulation of lifestyle factors, not just diet. So you can look at diet as, we know what foods fatten us. The higher the carbs, the more we're going to gain the weight. But there's also, like you were saying, the environmental process of having metals in our body that can cause us to gain weight. Having too many plastics in our environment can cause us to gain weight. One of my favorite stories, I don't know if you've heard many stories about this, but I remember a story of a gentleman that got married, was perfect health. He was slender, he was doing good. And after getting married, his hardworking wife was making him dinner and putting leftovers in plastic. And then he'd take it to work and he'd microwave that plastic.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And he started gaining weight. So he started getting more endocrine disruption. He started getting the plastic toxicity. So that was causing him to have that endocrine imbalance. And he become estrogen dominant and gain weight. And he did nothing different. I mean, how many stories like that have you heard that's caused?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
I mean, like you said, in my case, it was mercury, and that affects your thyroid and everything. And so I had to detox. So really, for me, it's a lifestyle now. It's not something that I do every spring or something like that. Every day I detox. We've heard the details. But it's something that you want to be mindful of, like you said, because we're getting so many metals in our environment. Just breathing the air, there are 80,000 different chemicals that the FDA didn't really check when they put it into our environment. It's in our water and all kinds of things. Definitely using a really well-filtered water, because we have pharmaceuticals, bacteria, and heavy metals in our water system. So you're re-inoculating yourself on a regular basis, just trying to stay hydrated. So yeah, it's pretty prevalent everywhere. And even just sitting in traffic and having the fumes. So I feel like chronic detoxing and doing things doesn't have to be crazy. But yes, getting clean water is like a big start, and filtered water. And then also when you sweat, you're dehydrating. And so, not dehydrating, you're detoxing. Infrared sauna, anything that gets you perspiring. So maybe that HIIT training, just like not overdoing it, but enough to wake up your body and get your heart pumping and everything, can help with that. So even certain breath work. Did you know that you lose a lot of your fat through breath, right? Because that's where
that's pretty cool.
Different things. Yeah. And so doing and also it helps clean your lungs and detox your system, and actually your brain too, because it also helps you access certain neurotransmitters. It's something that's really fascinating about breath work. They can actually give you energy. It can boost your immune system. It can actually calm your nervous system down if you're in a state of fight, flight. And so I dose it throughout the day. That's something else I do. It's not like something I do. I had a client tell me, well, I meditate every night. I listen to it, but it's like doing one thing at night when there are a million stressors, not to mention the thoughts in your brain that are stressing you out, or somebody said something and that was kind of mean, or, you almost stumbled and fell down. And, it takes a while for your body to come down from that, because when something like that happens, it's hyper vigilant and looking for the next shoe to drop. And so for me, it's like constant, like I like box breathing, or the physiologic side. When you've got a scare, it shuts down that fight flight. It's that when you inhale, exhale, like, and if you do that 3 or 4 times, it calms your nervous system down. What could be easier than going throughout your day? I'm at a stop sign, right? I'm like, or I tap, right? I mean, it's just, I don't care if people think I'm a weirdo, because I'm a happy weirdo, right? So I do things like that. Seriously, like my husband's like, "Are you okay?" Because he hears, and he's like, "Are you all right?" I'm like, "I'm fine. I'm just like doing my thing." Nowadays, he looks up, because just in case something, like I am having an issue or panic attack,
That's
but he
so
looks up
cool.
because he hears it.
It's
And
funny, we've never talked about that, but I kind of do something similar. I tend to do them 4, 7, 8, where I breathe in for 4, I'll hold it for 7, and I'll let it out. So I'm doing that all day long. I can look back at pictures and I'll be seeing myself breathing. And so it's like I've trained myself to only breathe in through my mouth and out through, in through my nose and out through my mouth, because I don't want to be a mouth breather. And so for me, it was critical as I started jogging to actually regulate my breathing and to only breathe in through my mouth. And breathe in through the nose. It's so hard to get this terminology in through the nose, and then hold it, and then I'd let it out slowly. And so I'm doing this all the time, and I do it throughout the day. And then I'm also like, okay, I got to go outside. Let me get some grounding. Let me drink my coffee outside. Let me get that light in my eyes all day long. Like, how can I go get more outside so that I can actually balance my nervous system? And, so it's funny that we're both kind of doing something similar throughout the day.
I know,
Yeah.
that's what's kind of fun about our conversations. Or you'll have one thing, and then I'll say, "Oh yeah," and I use it. So we're both kind of learning from each other, and also affirming, this works.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it was raining last few days, so I got myself a Huga grounding mat. So there are a lot of ways to do this to fit your lifestyle. If you feel like you're at work and there's always a way, if you're trying to figure it out. It's like you said, you've got to make this your hobby, something that you're really passionate about, because it pays back. Like, what could feel better than feeling good? And people listening might be saying, why we're talking about weight loss and you guys are talking about sunshine and grounding mats and breath work. Can you share a story you just talked about before we hopped on, about like that one thing? It's just that one thing, a supplement or something that's going to make me feel better.
Yeah, I just got off a call with a client this earlier, and I just felt so excited afterwards that I actually went to the nature center and started walking. It wasn't even my plan. I was supposed to go buy cat food. I didn't make it to the cat food. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to get on a call at 1 o'clock here with Dory. So I went to go, I had to go home. I had to cut my walk short. But what was really interesting is that she's been working with me for 6 months, and she has noticed that taking the targeted supplementation that she needed, bringing in more amino acids, getting her carbohydrate dialed in for how she wants to live her life. And she's had high blood pressure, and she's finally got her blood pressure under control, so she doesn't have to worry about it. She's super excited about that. She feels good. Bowel movements are great and feels better than she's has in a long time. And she had so much excitement in her voice. And it felt so good because she's like, I feel so much better. Everything's working. I know I'm detoxifying. I'm not getting sick like I always got sick. She says, a nurse. She says, if someone would just be near me and I would be sick, and her boyfriend's sick and she's not sick. And she's like, wow, this has never happened before. And so just dialing in her nutrition and working with me for 6 months, she felt so empowered, so grateful to be working with me. And she goes, just to have somebody to talk to who's been on the journey, who's got that lived experience, that was part of what she really truly wanted to guide her to where she needed to go, because she was turning 50, and that was her gift to herself was, I just need somebody who has the experience to guide me, and I want to be able to ask all the questions. And so she's been asking questions and exploring what she needs to do and reclaiming her health. And it just felt so good to know that she's grateful that she's got these results, that her blood pressure is under control. And one thing she said was she felt and looked better. She feels like at 50 she looks young, feels young, and doesn't feel like she's aging. And she's like, oh my gosh, somebody younger than me is got all these symptoms and it's not doing as good. And so she's proud of herself, and so that made me feel good. And so there's so many things that we need to look at as we're on our weight loss journey. It's not just the weight, but how can we get healthy so our body can get to the next step that it will let the weight go. And a lot of the times it's that mindset. It's getting control of our stress. It's reducing their stress load so we could actually get those action steps. When we manage our stress, when we manage our adrenals, then we're able to lose weight more. Because if your body is tight and tense and your minerals are out of balance and your stress is too high, your body's not going to let that fat go. It's like, oh, we're coming into some kind of a starvation where we're going to have to hold on to this fat. Something's happening. We better hang on to it. When your body feels, it's interesting, but when your body feels safe, that's when the weight comes off.
And healing happens,
It
right? I
really
mean,
happens.
it's
Mhm.
everything is going to slow down if your body thinks that, oh, either there's going to be, especially if we starve ourselves, right? That it's going to
Yeah.
start, everything's going to slow down. We've seen it in the hair tissue and mineral analysis labs that we run,
Mhm.
where your thyroid starts slowing down exponentially, and then you end up feeling really like tired and wired and exhausted, and your adrenals start getting sluggish. Your energy levels are going to
Mhm.
start really petering out, and you are going to start gaining weight because you can't take the food in and uh, do what you need to do with it. And your digestion slows down too in the middle of it all. And so then you're not getting the nutrients you need. And then there's this big cycle of just brain fog. And that's why it helps everything. It helps your energy, your mood, your hormones. If you want, and then I was going towards that, what do you call it, magic pill thing that your client was thinking about. But for me, yeah, it's like all of the things in your lifestyle. And I think that's why it's a good thing to be able to find an accountability partner or kind of understand how it works. Or you'll end up just looking at one thing, and it may work for a little while, but you're not looking at all the things. It's kind of like you're looking at the car and the check engine light comes on. You're like, oh no, there's a check engine light. I'm going to turn it off. And then, or you put something over it. Okay, problem solved. I don't see it anymore. But it was trying to tell you that was something out of balance in the car. And if you don't address that one thing, it's going to cause the whole system to start breaking down. And so that's sort of what I think people do in their approach. They're going to do one thing and it works, and they're going to hunker down and do more of it. And it's like, wait, but then what about your stress? What about your movement?
Mhm.
What about your sleep? What about getting sunshine? We're outside of our normal habitat, and that's stressful in and of itself, right? We're sitting indoors all day, and we've got the blue light in our faces, and the body
Mhm.
is like, we've got that clock, our circadian clock, and the brain and the body is like, what time is it? What am I supposed to be doing? Because the suprachiasmatic nucleus, the whole body, traditional Chinese medicine figured out that your organ system, everything works optimally at a certain time during the day when your circadian rhythm is in balance. Never mind the infradian, but that's gone when you're in menopause. So when your body clocks are out of sync, it's sort of like everything starts getting confused about when it's supposed to happen. When am I supposed to digest? When am I supposed to detox? When am I supposed to, all the things that your body wants to do? And then the wheels fall off the bus, and your metabolism, it starts to, not be optimized. Like we talked about circadian, if you get UVA, it's, I think, 10 degrees when the sun is up at a certain level, you get a certain light that is able to balance your circadian rhythm, help bring your hormones back online, help with mood, energy. And so if you just do that one thing, it's a big lever and you might feel better. But then if you're not managing your stress, or you're eating a ton of carbs, or you have that toxic relationship or that job that you hate so much, then your body's going to think it's not safe. I think I'm going to go into fight, flight, freeze mode. That's not going to be, I mean, losing weight takes energy. It's like you've got to change your body chemistry. I guess you could talk more about that with the keto thing. It changes your body chemistry. In order to do that, it's work, right? And so if you're stressed out, it's not going to try and do that. It's going to lower the energy and use as little as possible. Energy is your fat, right? So it's not going to, it's going to try to save it, which
Mhm.
is smart. It's an adaptive thing. It's trying to protect you. So you're not going to go for optimal health. You're going to go for maintenance mode, or,
Right. I think I was stuck in maintenance for so many years when I was
Mhm.
working indoors in a retail environment.
Working,
And
working. pull that.
the light was just horrifying. I mean, towards the end of working there, I just like wanted to go get my blue light blocking glasses. I'm like, something's wrong with my eyes. It just doesn't feel comfortable. But it was stressful and I could not lose weight. I was stuck at like 150 pounds after losing 160, like 160. I lost 20 pounds. And then for 3 years, I was just stuck in a stress response and then digestive dysfunction where I could not lose any more weight. But it was like a stressful situation where my body wasn't going to let the weight go. And that's one of the reasons why I started getting more outdoors and getting more sunlight, because I noticed that that would reduce my stress load, and that when I was outside, I'd lose a little bit of weight. But as soon as I got back indoors all the time, I would start to gain that weight back again. And so that's why we want to do the little bits every day outside as much as possible. Take a break out at, go outside for your breaks. Try to get light in your eyes when you're at work and you're on a break. And then on the weekend, plan a day where you could plug yourself back into the earth. Like you were saying, we're so out of our environment that we actually want to look at ourselves like zoo animals. We are not in our natural environment, and we are suffering because of that. I mean, it's interesting. When I picked up a couple of new cats last year, I went to the vet with them, and every time I would go in, I'd see the overweight animals, and then I'd look at the people too, and everybody would be overweight. But I mean, if you think about it, everybody's eating cereal grains, and it can cause, even the animals are eating kibble and cereal grains. You might want to just consider cereal as kibble. We know we're eating kibble too if we're eating cereal.
Yeah.
And that causes weight gain. And so there's so many things that cause stress on our body. And then, so weight gain isn't just one thing. It's not just let me lower my carbs and I'll lose weight. And in the beginning, you could lose 20 pounds and reset. But if you want more, you still have to look at your environment to figure out what the next level and the next step is, so that you get the ultimate thriving process happening, reclaiming your health rather than just maintaining it. So that's why menopause can be kind of it's not just one step, but it's like being aware of what's happening in our body, knowing we have insulin resistance. Carbs need to be lower. Nature did not provide for women in menopause. They're just like, okay, your hormones are done. You're done. We don't need you anymore. You can't procreate. So but we're wise, and we're actually the educators of the younger generation. So we just need to get the knowledge to manage ourselves so that we can be helpful of the younger generation. And unfortunately today, they're saying the statistics are the younger generation's not going to live as long as our generation, which is pretty sad to think about because of the environmental process that we're living in.
And they say that, every generation, everything you do in this generation, what you do impacts the 4 generations down.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, to me, it's like, I wish I'd known sooner. I mean,
right. We could have helped our children more.
Information. Well, we become examples, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we do the best that we can and educate people. And, with our kids, when you know better, you do better. I love what you said about we think of ourselves as zoo animals. I did this post one time that was like, what would you think about the person who has a cat or a dog and feeds them Cheerios and cheese doodles? Like I call them cheese doodles, cheese puffs every day, and maybe some Hi-C or Coca-Cola in their little food bowl. And they never took
sick pretty fast.
Yeah, they didn't poop every day because it doesn't matter. And no sunlight, and they're always inside a house. And you put them under light, fluorescent light. Like, wouldn't that? I would call somebody. Like, I would report that person. But we do that not only to ourselves, but to our next generation, our kids, our babies, right? On this food. And so, people, it kind of, we slowly got into this idea with the food pyramid. Grains and cereals and Kellogg and Big Pharma and everything, was pushing that stuff. And now it's sort of like, oh, wait a minute. What was 2 or 3 generations back doing when they didn't have these diseases? And by the way, pharmaceuticals and things, right? What were they doing? And what was normal? And there's so many things that we're doing now that they wouldn't even recognize, like 24/7 access to shopping and any kind of movie you want. And you can actually control your circadian day and night. That has nothing to do with nature. So that's such a good point, what you said about we're not in our natural habitat anymore.
That's the biggest problem, we're not plugged into the earth.
Into a tank with no salt. I mean, it's gonna
So, I
die.
mean, look at how we evolved. We have skin to soak up sunlight, so we're supposed to be outside to get the vitamin D naturally. We eat animal fat and animal protein to get the nutrients to actually absorb the food that we're eating and to absorb the D3 into our body. And actually, vitamin A, which is a fat soluble vitamin coming from animal fat, is actually an enzyme that's needed for the light to get into our body. So that is going into our eyes. Light goes into our eyes. It utilizes enzymes to actually take that information into the suprachiasmatic nucleus so that we can energize our mitochondria. But if we're lacking these nutrients, then we're not, and you're blocking the light into your eyes, then your body's not getting the information it needs to actually have energy to actually take that energy like backpacks and utilize it in your body. That's why so many people are ending up more sick more quickly too, because of all that's happening. So getting things like red light panel to help biohack our health and having that grounding mat is essential in some ways, because we do have to figure out how to plug back into the earth. I mean, it's just like when I see somebody blocking sunlight, I'm just so like frustrated for them. It's so sad. And then some people never touch the ground barefoot. I mean, I can't even imagine how I would survive. I couldn't survive. Now that I surviving touching the earth and grounding and losing weight because of it, I just like I saw somebody one time at a garden. It was really funny. I mean, I guess I should be minding my own business, but they were grounding, they were barefoot, but they had sunglasses on. So I'm like, I had to say something. And I'm like, oh, it's so good to see you grounding, because I was grounding at the same time. But I said, did you know that you need to get the light into your eyes at the same time? So it's like one lady took her glasses off, but the other didn't. So, but I couldn't help myself. It was just something that I needed to do.
The teacher
So,
in you, right? Yeah, I mean, it's like, I think that we're so lucky to have access to more information than we ever did getting into menopause than the previous generation. If you look at all the information that our moms, right, our parents had when they got to this stage, they didn't know a lot of things, and we see kind of the fallout of it. And so now we have information overload, actually, right? And that's one of the things I want to say a couple times, that that's a benefit of like having an accountability person, like we are accountable with each other, but maybe have someone who's a few steps ahead or knows what you're talking about or they're talking about. And also it's so reassuring because some of it is conventional wisdom isn't correct sometimes. We've seen time and time again, like not eating fat, we've been starving ourselves and we've been depriving ourselves of the vitamins A, D, E, and K, like you were saying. So we're literally hurting our bones, our brain, our energy, our heart, everything. At this point, like I am worried about my bone health because I've had disordered eating. I've starved myself. I've done, all kinds of things to not have the right nutrients. I'm sure there's not a lot of calcium and minerals in rice, right? So, because I did what did I do? Rice and broccoli and teriyaki
lots
sauce
of arsenic.
It's crazy, right? Like, then I was toxifying myself, and I was wondering, this is like in college, I was wondering why I had brain fog, and I had cystic acne, and I looked really thin, but there was no muscle mass or anything. And so I was just trying to fit into a certain size. So at this age and stage, it's sort of like we have so much information, but how do you apply it? And also sometimes there's a sequence to things. You don't want to do everything at once because it's overwhelming.
Yes.
And then, like you were saying, that's why you should plug your book again because it's out. But while you sometimes don't want to just step into the deep end, but find ways to kind of move yourself. There are certain people that are all in and they're just going to go for it. But then there's a large subset that just wants to kind of dip their toe in, feel like, okay, this is something I can do, and start, moving into the lifestyle, like in their own time. And so you've got to kind of honor, whichever one you are, and not look at the other person and say, and if you're working with somebody as a practitioner or coach, then you want to look at somebody who has a similar background. Like a high-end elite athlete is not going to want to work with me. Nope. And so you've got to see somebody who has kind of the same history, and your history is very, very specific. And with mine, it's somebody who has a lot of emotional stress, disordered eating. And with yours, it's somebody who had to lose 100 pounds and had gone through a lot of different diets, and you had anxiety and were able to find something that just sort of clicked. And then you're able to run with it. And then somebody who is interested in having some flexibility, not being so rigid, and having different options. So it's not like this or this. Because for me, it's like, Well, depending on the person, I think we always kind of meet the person where they are, but I like to do the therapeutic ketosis, because if you have addictions or if you have like something serious, like everything serious though, relative, but then, sometimes you got to kind of push yourself into the deep end. And that's why I think a lot of support either way is really important, because healing isn't a straight line. Sometimes you feel you go into speed bumps or you move backwards. Like you said, like, why am I not losing weight yet? Well, wait a minute. Your energy has improved. Your sleep is better now. That's going to mean better blood sugar balance. And you're making the right choices and you're catching yourself when you're doing the wrong thing. That is huge. That is actually the foundation to ongoing success and lasting success versus I lost 3 pounds, right? So
Exactly. That's what happened with me. I mean, I dropped the 20 pounds, and then with digestion and gut health, I dropped another 15. And then it was all of the cumulative things that I'd been doing with lifestyle changes that all of a sudden got me to the point where, okay, now my body was able to relax more. And once I put myself out in sunlight and got more grounding and figured out how to manage the stress, that's when the rest of the weight came off. And so now it's just second nature to really just keep doing what I'm doing, and the weight just stays off. That's why I like to say we can have permanent weight loss, but it does start with a low carb diet. And it's not just low carb. You can't just eat a lot of protein and only vegetables and not have the fat, because if you don't have the fat, then your hormones are going to suffer. And so even though you're getting the protein, if you're doing lean protein and you're still trying to lose weight by doing low fat, you no longer have an energy source. You only have protein, which your body has to break down, a little bit of glucose from the vegetables, but not enough energy to keep the cravings away. So you may have more cravings and more hunger and think that the low carb diet doesn't work for you because you went too low fat. And so that is critical. And I've been kind of wanting to bring that one in because I can never cut back my fat. I think I do better with fat than I do with just the protein alone, because just protein alone could just make you feel more tired and sleepy because your body has to break it down. So you do need that energy source. But the other thing too that's really cool about this is when you focus on your metabolism and you're using diet and protein and fat and the nutrients are getting absorbed, what you're doing is resetting your metabolism. And so then your thyroid can function better, because a lot of the time people at this age especially are having hyperthyroid or hypothyroid, Hashimoto's, because the metabolism is not functioning. Your body's breaking down. So you're starving at the nutritional level, and all the toxic chemicals and everything combined with the adrenal stress can create a problem for your thyroid. And so it's not about fixing thyroid or fixing Hashimoto's. It's about how can you manage your blood sugar? How can you support your metabolism, support your diet, and get your body into a state where your toxins are lower? You're actually getting the right nutrients to have a better thyroid, and then the right fats so that you can absorb those nutrients. Those are what's going to support your thyroid, because, I never had tested myself for thyroid until about a year ago. I don't have a thyroid problem, but I never did anything to fix my thyroid. And who knows where it was, because I don't know. I never went in to get it checked. But I thought it was really cool to know that, oh, I fixed my metabolism. I don't have a thyroid problem. So it's workable, but we have to get the right nutrients. And
yeah, with the thyroid, I mean, as you know, it's a lot of like we're not giving thyroid what it needs, like, iodine, selenium, those kinds of things. And also the ratio on the HTMA is calcium and potassium. So if you literally don't have the nutrients to be able to help it, and if you're in a certain state with the HMA, we can tell if your cells are permeable. So you might have enough thyroid hormone, it's going right through, or it's not permeable, so it's not getting in. So it doesn't matter how much thyroid hormone you're taking, and it's not about your thyroid. As FDNs, I remember one of the things that I found out that was really interesting is that 80% of thyroid issues is not thyroid. You've got different pathways with the adrenal too, as one of the main ones, where it's going to prioritize your fight flight versus your thyroid, right? And so that's, again, part of like your adrenals are really important. And when you're protected, all these other things will come back online. There's more nuance. I mean, that's oversimplification. But like you said, it's not just like, let's go for the thyroid and just hunker down. There's so many things. And a lot of times it's toxins too. Metals kind of counterbalance and kind of thwart, the ability for your thyroid to thrive. But it's not just the thyroid then, because you're seeing like we're systemic. We're not just like one thing.
Right.
And so, the thing about nutrition, like to what you're saying, is it moves so many different levers. It helps with Georgia Eats, right? It helps with mood. because you're getting the chemicals and the minerals and everything, neurotransmitters come back online, because those are the building blocks to mood, good mood or not good mood, right? And then you have like the ability to detox, because you're taking out all that sugar and inflammation. Now your liver is able to do other things, and it's able to metabolize estrogen in your hormones, right? And then if you have toxins and everything, then you want to get rid of them. And that's part of like the way we teach how to eat high fat, low carb, because we're taking out the things that are going to cause your liver and your kidneys and your systems of detox to work harder. And then you teach food sensitivity. So you're inflaming your body every time you eat certain foods.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't know, because it's all kind of quietly happening behind the scenes. You might see weight gain and symptoms that you don't correlate to inflammation, right?
Yeah, that one's huge. When you actually take out the foods you're specifically sensitive to, you will start to lose the weight, because you're going to have water weight, you're going to have inflammation weight,
Brain fog.
and brain fog, and there's so much noise going on in your body. You don't even realize how sick you are or how sick you feel until you've actually taken out your food sensitivities that you've been eating and actually can listen to your body. Usually my clients will have some wheat after taking it out for a while. And they immediately will get sick. They'll have stomach aches and they just don't feel good. And one lady was 2 days. She's like, oh my God, I had wheat. And it was 2 days before she got over the symptoms. But that's just because your body gets inflamed again. And now, once you are aware of what's happening, you cleaned up your diet, you took out the foods you're reacting to, and you're starting your metabolic reset. Now you can hear the noise in your body, and you know what you want and what you don't want. And that's why then it becomes easier to make the lifestyle changes. It becomes easier to dial in weight loss in a menopause, because now you have actual process, like a roadmap to get back to healthy. When you can see what's going on in your body and you run the right labs, then now you find your weight loss blocks. Now you know what to do. And now you're actually getting energy into your brain. You're getting fat into your brain. You're absorbing your amino acids. And you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know I could even feel this way. That's how we lose weight in menopause. When you feel good, when you dial these steps in a little at a time. But yeah, that's one of the things that can be hard, is it can seem like this could be too much, but we live the lifestyle. So that's why we're here to guide our clients. One of the ways that I like to get clients started is just really taking out the food sensitivities and using food as a bridge. So get off of the ultra processed food. We can't get away from processed food. Bacon comes in a package. I'm not going to give up my bacon. Somebody else was saying that earlier. Things come in jars and packages. But what we want to do is have food that doesn't have 10 ingredients. It doesn't. If you can't pronounce the ingredients, you want to get away from the preservatives. You want to clean up your food system. That's why it's a holistic process. Get rid of the toxins. Don't buy those hams that are full of nitrites and, preservatives and polysorbate this. And all of these chemicals are going into your body and preserving your body pickled with chemicals. And so then you can't function. So just look at food as a bridge. Try to make everything low carb, keep your carbs down. The whole idea is to keep your blood sugar levels lower, to lower your insulin response. When you lower your insulin response, then you can lose weight in menopause. We become so much more insulin resistant in menopause because we have low estrogen. So we have to look at our food. We basically don't have a choice. If you want to be healthy over 50, you have to lower your blood sugar. And so getting a CGM could be something. A constant glucose monitor can show you what foods you're reacting to and where your blood sugar levels are on a regular basis. That can be super helpful. I know Dory likes to use the Keto Mojo to track that, to be more in a therapeutic ketosis. You kind of need to have that process. If you're fighting a disease in your body, it's might be that you need to get your body balanced before you can lose the weight. And so you want to look at where your goals are, what you need to do, and know that you can do this. But it works easier when you look at food as not being deprived. I get to eat this. I can eat anything I want as long as it's low carb. Like before I got on this call, I snagged a snickerdoodle that was already cooked because I haven't had lunch yet. And I'm like, okay, lunch is in the toaster oven. I'm just doing
hard-boiled eggs.
yeah, I'm doing a quick ground beef Oh, your recipe, just ground beef and butter with some dehydrated onions. And then I just threw some scrambled eggs on top of it. And I'm like, okay, I'm sticking this in the toaster oven. It's just going to bake in there and be a frittata. And then I'll put some, I'm making my cheese board tonight. So I'm going to break open my manchego, which I've been saving for Thanksgiving. So I haven't broke into it yet, and just give myself a little bit of cheese for that. But, it's going to make me feel good. I want to eat the foods that make me feel good. And I want the flavors that I want to eat. But the interesting thing is once you transition more to low carb, you actually nourish your skinny bacteria and you starve the fat bacteria. So your taste buds change and it becomes easier. And so just getting 30 days, give yourself a 30-day challenge. If you can actually get 30 days in, then your body's going to change. It changes very quickly. And then you can get excited, like, oh my gosh, this is actually not so hard.
Yeah.
If you can follow the food bridge process, and I can make it easier for you, I've got my new ebook recipe at loribaloo.com. You can click on there and go there and download and buy my book. It's $9.99, but it's an inspirational guide too, because it shows me and my progress. And these are the easy recipes that I used to make this transition to lose 100 pounds. I don't go without a snickerdoodle cookie here and there.
I know, I hear
But
you.
I only do it at the holidays. I try because otherwise I don't want to eat it all the time, and I only bake it when there's an occasion. But what I'm noticing when I put the allulose in it, which is the GLP-1 activation, it actually turns off my appetite because I haven't been as hungry this week. I'm actually forgetting to eat. I'm having to force myself to eat more. And it's interesting because I've had a little dose of allulose. And from Ben Bickman, he's a PhD, he studies insulin and he studies insulin resistance. And he states specifically that insulin or fat does not grow. He has little petri dishes with fat in it in his laboratories. And he says that until he puts insulin in it, those fat cells don't grow. And so when you add more insulin into your body, when you increase your insulin load in your body, because we do need a little bit to maintain our life, we have to have it to live, but you don't want it to be elevated all the time and become a toxin to your body. So when insulin is elevated too often, it's a toxin. And so when you can actually stop eating the foods that raise your insulin levels by using things like allulose and protein that create GLP-1 naturally, and GLP-1 is what is when people use Ozempic, that creates that GLP-1 process, so you're not hungry. So it keeps you from feeling hungry. But the problem with when you use Ozempic is it's very expensive, and you're using something that's artificial in large amounts, so it's not natural to your body. And yes, it will stop your appetite, but it makes you nauseous, and so you can't eat or enjoy food. And then you lose half your body mass and muscle and bones as well, so you're damaging your health long term. But the cool thing is a low carb ketogenic diet actually does a better job of that process. It's actually the natural process that you could turn off your appetite, control your hunger, maintain muscle mass while you lose weight, and you get to feel great and still enjoy food. And so I'm so grateful that I am able to do this diet and lifestyle because it saved my life, got my brain back on, and I get to be excited about life and help people do it as well. So losing weight in menopause can be fun, and it can be really easy once you get started in it. And so don't think of it as hard. It's actually can be easy when you get started. So the first week, you're going to be coming off a carb addiction. You got to realize you do have carb addiction. And that's just something you want to be aware of why it's happening. But if you can add a little bit of allulose in there and have a keto cookie while you're doing this the first week, I wonder, really kind of curious. I wonder how easy that then becomes.
Could that be part of your
transition?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like what you were saying about the GLP-1, it's like, why does it have to be one or the other? I know a lot of people are on it now.
Mm-hmm.
I've never been 100 pounds overweight, but I sure have had body dysmorphia. And you better bet that if I were younger and didn't know what I know now, I would have been on the bandwagon. But at some point, I think they don't, I don't know enough to know, like, if there's a certain amount of time they can be on it. I think you have to always be on it. And so
as always, or you just gain the weight back, and it's all fat. You don't gain the muscle back. You gain
Some people
all the
don't
fat
even, I've had clients where it doesn't even work. I had a client come off of it and she couldn't stop her appetite. It was almost like whatever they shut down turned back, and it was like, blah. So you don't know, it's unpredictable, but eating this way is predictable. So even if you're on Ozempic, I mean, basically, if you don't have the nutrients you need, you are in trouble, full stop. And so
Mhm.
why don't you do this so that once, if you're able to segue off of it, you already have the GLP-1s, like with the allulose, with the fat, with the protein.
Protein.
And then you're able to manage your appetite. Like when you were talking about it, sometimes it's like, we're looking at our protein intake and I was like, I can't eat anymore. And you're like, I know, I don't know what I'm going to do. It's not, don't starve yourself. I guess the thing that I guess that for you and I, like what we do is like low carb, high fat, make sure you get protein, enough protein so you can maintain your muscle mass. And
Mhm.
then don't overdo the movement, do some kind of movement, preferably high intensity or interval training. And then also manage your stress, like think of where you're stressed out and ditch whatever doesn't feel good as well as you can. I had a client tell me that it's like, I can't do that. I'm so busy. I have all these things. And I said, what kinds of things? And these are things that she's a perfectionist. And I said, can somebody else do that? Because I have this worksheet that I give people: delegate, delete, delay, or automate, right? Like automate your shopping or your banking or something, delete, and you need to delete. And I saw her, like, it was a lot of want tos, or, oh, that person can't do it as well as I can, that kind of thing. Or I just want it to be perfect. Like, she's a wonderful mom and she does all these things. It's like, well, can somebody else do that? Or you can find a carpool. And she was just so rigid. And it's like, you get the same result doing the same thing. That's the hard thing with coaching, right? Because you kind of see sometimes, and really the other person, the person that is on the journey, you are the pilot. You're leading your health wellness journey, and our goal is to give you the resources, and we also can see some of the, like, that's, I guess, what I was getting at. Healing is not a straight line. And
No.
you're going to get road bumps. You're going to hit walls. You're going to end. We've done a lot of that. In fact, we continue to do that because we're N of one, right? We're always doing, like, we had funny stories about hormones and all kinds of things, right? And eating this and trying that. And GLP-1, allulose is a more recent science. And you and I had a conversation about that. And then we started giving it a try. And I had my CGM on, and you had your in your cookbook and all these other things. But it's kind of a journey. And like with the nutrition, I think that's the lowest hanging fruit and foundational. If you don't have that down, one bad day, you want your body chemistry and your nutrition to help carry you through that.
Mhm.
When you're feeling calm and satiated, and you have like the building blocks to be able to handle stress, because you have things to goose up the cortisol, or if you're feeling kind of frisky because you have the sex hormones or whatever, it's all there. So you want to have the building blocks so that when you need to use it, it's available. And then, adrenal, lifestyle, and all these other things, we want to stack them in. So it does sound overwhelming, but Lori and I didn't have all this. Like, we woke up one day and all of a sudden we've got it all. I mean, I think a lot of it does start with nutrition, because then you can think straight. Because
Mhm.
now you
That's
have
the first thing. It's
nutrition.
like you're saying, Georgia Eads, change your diet, change your mind. And even so if you've got depression or any kind of bipolar or any kind of problem with memory, or you're worried about Alzheimer's and your health, you really want to check out Chris Palmer's book, Brain Energy, or Georgia Eads' book on change your diet, change your mind. Because, she even states 3 days, you can get your brain energy back. And it could be 3 weeks, it could be 3 months before you get your body into the shape you want. But giving yourself 3 weeks to 30 days to try it out. And then that's how we help you. I run the food sensitivity test. I run 5 to 6 labs for my clients. I find all your hidden healing opportunities within these labs that I run. And it addresses the hormones, it addresses your gut health, it addresses your food sensitivities, it addresses digestion and detoxification. We're going to find what's happening. And these tests actually give me enough information to help you guide your diet and lifestyle change, reset your metabolism, and we lower your blood sugar response. 6 months, and then you just segue from there. And all of a sudden, you're just reclaiming your health, because you'll get that 20-pound weight loss, and you'll start to reverse your risk for disease going forward. And that's, I think, what we all want. Who wants to be a burden to their family or to live in a nursing home? And who's already watching people who are struggling? And it's just a sad situation to know that, for me and for you, Dory, is just like we know this works. And to have to see people suffering, it's hard. It hurts to see the suffering when we know that this works. And so it's not really as hard as it sounds. Just want to get started. And one of the things I like to say too is when I'm hoping that my recipe book really resonates with people, because if you could actually start low carb, um, at Thanksgiving or even just after Thanksgiving, if you can't do it on Thanksgiving, you could actually drop 5 to 10 pounds instead of gaining 5 to 10 pounds over the next 20 days for the next 30 days. And by January 2025, you'll be ahead of the game and you'll be losing weight and you're going to be feeling amazing and you're going to feel so positive. So that's our hope for you, is to really, like Dory was saying, we just have to really look at nutrition, get that attrition absorbed, and manage our stress. And that's the big picture right there. If we could just do things like that.
Right. And when you ask about what causes weight gain, there's so many different things, 7, 8 more.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of a game of whack-a-mole. Foundationally, food, there's probably something going on with your food. But as in my case, there were additional things. And that's why, we have the saying in FDN, test, don't guess.
Mhm.
So if it's overwhelming to you and you feel like, okay, I understand about nutrition, I've got this, find an accountability partner or somebody to lead you or a practitioner. But then it is complicated because there are a bunch of other things. Could be getting inflammation or all those things. And that's why the labs test, don't guess is what we say. And so it kind of gives you a roadmap and it's more customized. And Lori's really good at holding your hand and saying, look, this is normal, whatever you're dealing with, or look at these things that are healing. Because sometimes weight loss, as Lori said, is the last thing to fall off and you'll give up. And when you're just like moving in the right direction, your metabolism is ramping up, your chemistry is changing, sometimes it doesn't feel good because there's shifts going on. And so you have somebody to tell you it's okay. And not only that, but she could say, I went through that. And I know how you feel. Because sometimes you feel like you're alone, you're crazy, or it feels bad and you just don't want to feel bad because life is already stressful. And then you have your appointments. And that's what you said, you had a client, Lori, right?
Yeah, yeah, she's
Just
just
having
doing
someone to
so
talk
much
to.
better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes just like somebody on the same path who understands, instead of like talking to somebody who just totally doesn't get and say, keep on rocking on, it's okay, or it doesn't work, let's just stop. So having somebody who kind of understands it helps you go through the same path and know that you're doing the right thing. Or sometimes, when you change something in your chemistry, things change. So then we could say, okay, this is happening, so let's course correct.
Yep,
Because
exactly.
something that works for one person won't work for another
Mhm.
person, but we've seen enough people and we've walked enough people through it that we can kind of understand and interpret, oh, okay, this is what's happening with you. Let's do this, and then you'll be on your way. And so that's, I think, part of the fun, because I feel like I think of myself as the resource person and tour guide, but then it takes work. And I think that's one of the things, right? Some people, like, they think they're going to get a bunch of labs and kind of like, oh, everything's going to fall into place easily. But, you got to have that passion and want to take the steps, that mindset of like, how can I optimize my health? And honestly, it feels so good, right? To have your health. You forget how it feels good. I mean, how good it feels to have a healthy body and mind. And once you get a sense of that, you're thinking, oh, I'm not going back.
Yeah, I mean, to reduce the pain in the body, to not have arthritis, to get better sleep so you could sleep through the night and have the energy the next day, so you could stand up and walk all day and feel energized. These are the results my clients are getting, and they always get better sleep. And what I always focus on to help with the weight loss and menopause is to dial in hydration, make sure you're getting that mineral balance. That's why we both run the HTMA, the heritage and mineral analysis, because we need to know what those first 4 minerals are doing so that we can determine if you need more salt and potassium, which most people do, and whether or not you need to take calcium or not take calcium. And so those are good information. And so when you get that information in advance to help you lose weight in menopause, that's the biggest deal. You get to collapse the time. We don't have any more time to waste when we're in our 50s, when we're in menopause. We're ready to live now. We want to get down on the ground and play with our grandkids. But if you're not feeling good, you can't get there. So losing weight in menopause is about getting healthy to lose the weight, to manage your blood sugar, and to reset your metabolism so your thyroid is functioning. And yes, that's why FDN has married all of this together. So diet, your sleep, your rest and exercise and movement, and tailoring that into what it is that your body needs to do and where you're comfortable. Because, if it's not going to work for you, you're not going to do it. So it needs to be individualized for each person.
Yeah, and absolutely look for an accountability buddy. Lori's my accountability buddy. Everybody needs one to stay on track, or, oh, this happened. Bodies do what they need to do, and life happens. And so sometimes things shift around, and you've got to, definitely going through menopause is not for sissies. It's a biochemical process, and different people experience it in different ways based on how they've been living their lives. If you've had a lot of stress and you've had, nutrition not dialed in, if you've had a lifetime of dieting or whatever it is, everybody comes into it, and then you find out what you find out when there are no hormones. And so just having, the ability to learn because there's so much new science, listen to like what's going on in like all the science-based information about how to help yourself. Now there's more information, like I said before, than we've ever had. And so that could be an overwhelm. So, look and really understand. Don't take anybody, even our word, on it, just on word, right? Do the science and learn. I really highly advocate people being really research, like understand what's going on, because the more you understand what's going on, the more you can help yourself.
Yeah,
and that is part of why we do labs, because we are not
right. And I always send resources. I'm like, I want to be, we want to be the last practitioner you ever have to go to. That's our motto in FDN. We're going to educate you and empower you to make your decisions, to get the information you need so that you can lose the weight all the time, regularly, make the lifestyle work so that in menopause, you're losing weight and you're not gaining weight. And so you want to have the right resources, follow the right people. And if you like reading and researching and listening to YouTube, stations, I'm going to send you that information, because I want to empower you. That's what I did with my brother. And to this day, he sends me things. But it was like, this is how you do it. We need to hang out with the people who are doing it, who are getting results, and who are living the lifestyle, because we need that like-minded tribe mentality. We're social beings. We need to be with the people who are making the lifestyle changes, because if you're hanging out with people who are not making them, they're going to sabotage you indirectly. And you won't be able to feel empowered to make your own changes. So that's why we've been coming on and doing these lives and really trying to hang out and show you the power that hanging out with people, you will make the changes. It'll work. You just got to get started and ask us questions on social media, and comment on this video and leave a comment and let us know what you thought about it, because we'd love to do some more of these lives in the future. Awesome. Any last words, Dory?
No, it's like happy holidays, and enjoy, find ways to relax and feel good and happy, find your tribe, and use food as medicine.
All right, you guys, get out there and give it a try and never quit, and just figure out what you can do next. Each week's going to be a new action plan. All right, get out there and keep working on it. Thanks a lot. Bye.